This isn't just another gig breakdown. What we're talking about today is one of the most emotional and historic nights in rock history. A night where the godfathers of heavy metal, Black Sabbath, stood on stage in the city where it all began to say goodbye for the very last time. Imagine the birthplace of metal, Birmingham, packed to the brim with fans from across the globe. Some of them had followed the band for 50 years. Others were there to see their heroes live for the first and only time. This wasn't just a concert, it was a pilgrimage, a gathering of generations who worship at the altar of heavy riffs, dark lyrics, and the unrelenting sound that changed the face of music. And this wasn't just about nostalgia, it was a send-off worthy of legends, an emotional journey through the past, present, and future of heavy metal. And let me tell you, if there was one jaw-dropping moment that left every fan stunned, something that people are still talking about today. So let's dive into the night that will go down in rock history as Sabbath's greatest and final chapter. The date, July 5th. The place, Villa Park, Birmingham. Not just any city, but the smoky, industrial heart of England where metal itself was forged. This is where Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, Bill Ward, and a young, wild Ozzy Osbourne first came together to create a sound unlike anything the world had ever heard. From the start, Black Sabbath's music reflected the environment around them, the grinding of factory machines, the gray skies, the grit of working-class life. Their riffs were heavy, doomy, and unapologetically dark. It was the sound of reality turned up to 11. Fast forward decades later, and the thousands of fans flooded into Birmingham, many wearing their battle-worn tour shirts from the 70s and 80s, while younger fans sported fresh tattoos of the Sabbath cross. Generations stood side by side, united by the sound that defined heavy metal. This show wasn't just titled Back to the Beginning for the sake of it. It was a heartfelt tribute to where it all started, to the city that raised them, to the riffs that still echo across decades. Before Sabbath even set foot on stage, the night exploded with a series of performances that felt like chapters in a metal history book. Each band was handpicked, not just for their fame, but for how deeply they were influenced by Sabbath's legacy. First up was Mastodon. Known for their massive sound, they opened with their own hits but quickly dropped a surprise, a thunderous, sludge-filled cover of Supernaut. The guitars sounded like the roar of Birmingham's factories, a direct nod to the city's industrial soul. Fans could almost feel Tony Iommi's silent approval from backstage. Then came Rival Sons, a band drenched in smoky psychedelia and retro blues vibes. They approached Electric Funeral like it was a sacred text, delivering every note with reverence. The crowd swayed, closed their eyes, and let the music wash over them like it was 1970 all over again. Anthrax followed, and the energy shifted into chaos. Scott Ian, with his devilish grin, led the band through a set of thrash anthems before detonating into the void. The pit erupted into pure, unrelenting madness. Metalheads of all ages colliding as Joey Belladonna howled with raw emotion. Hailstorm brought another flavor to the stage, proving that Sabbath's influence spans beyond thrash and sludge. Lizzie Hale's voice tore through the night like a blade, especially during her fiery rendition of Perry Mason. Every scream and note carried the timeless rebellion and darkness that Sabbath pioneered. Lamb of God followed, and subtlety was thrown out the window. Randy Blythe's guttural roars during Redneck were primal, almost tribal, turning Villa Park into a battlefield of sound. Every drum beat felt like a war drum, calling the crowd into battle. Then came Alice in Chains, and the mood shifted once again. Their set was haunting, emotional, and raw. They played classics like Man in the Box, with the crowd singing every word. But their cover of Fairies Wear Boots, that was the moment. Their gritty, grunge-heavy style gave the Sabbath classic a new edge while still honoring its roots. Finally, Gojira took the stage. If Mastodon's set was seismic, Gojira's was a full-on earthquake. Their precision, their brutality, and their energy during Mea Culpa left the crowd in awe. It was a reminder that while Sabbath may have started it all, the future of metal is alive and thriving. As the sun dipped behind the stadium, the show shifted gears. What came next felt like a who's who of metal royalty, with each band not just playing, but paying tribute. Pantera was up first. Though the Abbott brothers are no longer with us, this reunion lineup carried their spirit like a flame. Before they even struck the first note, the crowd erupted into chants of Dimebag. Their set was a mix of Pantera classics, Walk, Cowboys from Hell. But when they launched into a crushing version of Black Sabbath, the entire stadium trembled. It wasn't just a cover, it was a heartfelt salute to the band that paved the way for Pantera's heavy groove. Then came Slayer, a band that had officially retired but clearly couldn't resist this once-in-a-lifetime event. When Kerry King stepped on stage, guitar slung low, it was like the gates of hell opened. They tore through raining blood with their signature ferocity. But the real jaw-dropper was Angel of Death. It wasn't just a performance, it felt like a dark summoning, as if Slayer was exorcising their demons one last time. The energy took a complete turn with Tool. Maynard James Keenan barely said a word, but his presence was magnetic. The stage lights dimmed and they transformed Hand of Doom into a swirling cosmic ritual. Adam Jones's guitar tones shimmered with otherworldly textures, and the audience, usually so wild and loud, stood mesmerized. It was Sabbath's psychedelic side, amplified and modernized. Then came Guns N' Roses, pure rock and roll swagger. Axl Rose prowled the stage like a predator, his voice sharp and unmistakable. Slash and Duff delivered a masterclass in guitar-driven energy, and their cover of Sabbath Bloody Sabbath lit up the night. Thousands of phones were raised, capturing every second of that historic moment. And then Metallica. If the night had a climax, this was it. James Hetfield stepped up to the mic with the excitement of a fan who just met his heroes. They ripped into Hole in the Sky, followed by a crushing rendition of Creeping Death. But it was their performance of For Whom the Bell Tolls that shook Villa Park to its core. You could feel the connection. Metallica wouldn't be Metallica without Sabbath, and tonight was their chance to give back. By this point, the energy in the stadium was electric, and then, the moment everyone had been waiting for, Black Sabbath themselves walked out for their final bow. The roar of the crowd was deafening. Fans were crying, hugging and screaming all at once. Ozzy Osbourne, despite his health struggles, looked like a man reborn as he belted out every lyric with raw emotion. Tony Iommi's guitar tone, heavy, iconic, unmistakable, cut through the air like a blade. Geezer Butler's bass rumbled through the ground, shaking everyone to their core. They played the classics, War Pigs, Iron Man, and of course, Paranoid. Every note, every lyric, every riff felt heavier because everyone knew this was the end. Ozzy paused between songs to thank the fans, his voice cracking with emotion. He reminded everyone that Sabbath was built by the fans as much as by the band. And then, the final song. As Children of the Grave rang out, the crowd sang louder than the band. It wasn't just a performance, it was a shared moment, a final communion between legends and the people who loved them. When the last note faded, the band stood together, arms raised, soaking in the roar of their people one final time. It wasn't just a show, it was a farewell to the band that built heavy metal from the ground up. But this night was also, in many ways, a personal farewell to Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness, the wild, unpredictable frontman who turned chaos into art, who made every lyric or every scream feel like it came from his soul. Ozzy, who defied every odd, every health scare, every storm life threw at him, just to stand on that stage and give the fans one more memory they'll carry forever. Black Sabbath may have taken their final bow, but Ozzy's legacy will echo through the ages. So here's to Ozzy. Thank you for the madness, the music, and the heart. Farewell, legend. You'll always be our Iron Man.